Hello, everybody. Tom. I thought that it would be interesting to share with you some of my favorite tarot books. This will be exponentially shorter than the video I made on my favorite tarot decks. But I still think it's interesting. And I sadly don't read as much as I used to. And when I do, I read on my iPad because I have instant gratification needs that have to be met. So some of the books that I've read recently and liked aren't in front of me because they're digital. But if I had to sort of take a stack of tarot books with me to a desert island, these are the ones I would take. So starting kind of from the bottom of the stack to my top favorites, let's start. The first is a book by Christine Jetty. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's called Tarot Shadow Work. I don't know why I'm flipping through it as though there's anything to see but words, but hey, you should look at something while I'm yapping. Ooh, what's that? It's a good book. I read it a long time ago, and I haven't actually done a whole lot with it, because the work I did do, please pardon my shaking, was intense, and I feel like I needed to be ready for it, and I wasn't. But it's good. Don't know. It's about healing. I think that's important. Don't know if this is still in print, but I'm sure you can find it used. It's a good book. Next up is another of the same author's book, Christine Jetty. This is Professional Tarot. This is an interesting choice because I wouldn't consider myself a professional reader in that I don't have a tarot practice. I do read for others. I don't generally go out and seek clients. But it's a really interesting book. And I come back to it a lot. There's just a lot of interesting stuff in here. She covers starting a business, building a clientele, building a practice, doing work online. It's a little out of date, not that much. She even has a chapter on actually closing a practice, and there's a nice section on teaching if you decide you want to do that. So even though I wouldn't consider myself like a I hate that word. Because I don't have a full-time practice. I think it's a really good one. I do think this is out of print. I'm 90% sure, but I'm fairly sure I've seen this on Amazon used. May have a different cover now. Moving forward, up the ladder. That's a really rude thing to say about these writers. I like all these books. That's why I'm sharing them. But if I had to, start knocking them off, I would knock them off from in reverse order of what I'm doing, or no, in order of what I'm giving them to you. This is a cool book. I think it's still in print. It may have a different cover. It's by Janina Renee, Tarot Spells. This may raise eyebrows. I think this is really about sort of guided meditation and sending energy out in the world in a way that helps you achieve goals. I guess it's not all that different from positive thinking, except that it's active thinking and it's about directing your energies. I liked it a lot, and there is more interesting things to look in here. Obviously, this isn't going to appeal to everybody. If you don't believe in this sort of thing, then you may find this uninteresting. But she's a really good writer, and I really like this book. Next up, one of the earliest books I read on tarot, by Janina Renee again. Tarot, Your Everyday Guide. I know I've seen this on eBay, so I know that if it's not in print anymore, it is still gettable. May have a different cover now. I think it does. I liked this book a lot. It was maybe the second or third book on tarot I read. What I like about it is that it's about problem solving, and that she uses different decks throughout, so it's not just Rider-Waite-y, as many of them are. So this you could read as a beginner. I think it's really pretty solid. In fact, I did, and I think I learned a lot of what I know. The dumb secret in my reading is that the very first book I own was one of those like Tarot for Dummies books. I'm not joking. It wasn't that one. It was the Everything Tarot book. It was riddled with typos. There were chapters that disappeared into other chapters. Not very well written. No, that's a lie. It was well written, not very well edited. It's, I learned a lot from that too, though. Anyway, it's a good one, and it's very positive, it's very supportive, it's very thoughtful, and I like it. And I'm pretty sure it's gettable. These are my top 3. Kind of in no particular order. The Secret Language of Tarot by Ruth Ann and Wald Amberstone. As I mentioned, if you watched my favorite decks video, I love the Rider-Waite deck for all its flaws. What they do in this book is they go through the symbolism of this deck in particular and talk about what a crown means, talk about what clouds mean, and it's really just thought in the way that they do. One of the shames of my studying is that I actually enrolled in the Tarot School's correspondence course, and I got through maybe the first 4 or 5 lessons, loved it. In the coaching session that I had with Wald, for one of the last lessons I completed, and they're very intense, and if you want to get like intense, that's something I totally recommend. He did a reading for me, and he ended up saying something to me that I didn't realize at the time was going to take me down a completely different path. What it ended up saying in the reading was that I was about to go back to school and finish my bachelor's degree, which I did within, I started that within a few months of getting that reading. Completely took me away. And now I'm actually working on my master's degree. So all of that distracted from the work I was doing with them, which was awesome. But we have their books. So this is a really good book. It's really fun. I read this like cover to cover the day I got it. I was so excited. So this is a really good one. And if you're not a fan of the Rider-Waite deck, this might actually make you more interested in it. So these last 2 are next to impossible for me to separate. So I'm going to go in reverse order of the way I read them. And I feel like anyway, the last book deserves its place, has earned its place at the top of the ladder. So second to last, brilliant Tarot, History, Symbolism, and Divination by Robert M. Place. Adore this book. Again, very Rider-Waitey in its way, although broader than that. There's so much to say about this book. I've learned so much from it. What is cool about it is that if you are interested in the Rider-Waite deck or the history of tarot, boom. This is a great history. It's not long, it's not dry. We learn all about the first tarots, we learn all about the first suits, we learn about Pamela Coleman Smith meeting Waite, and he finds all kinds of things that hadn't really been written about before. He goes through the history of tarot that we learn, mythologically, and then the reality. And then he gets into his reading style, which I actually use in one of my other videos from a few years ago, where he pulls 3 cards, as he does on the cover here, and lets that create a narrative. And I use that more and more. I just love this book. I've read it more than once. I go back to it sometimes when I'm feeling, I don't know, uninspired or inspired to visit it. I love it. So, there's that. The final one, called by many, or at least at the time I started learning, the Bible of Tarot, 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack. I adore this book. Again, very Rider-Waitey, but not exclusively. It's falling apart because I have thumbed through this so many times. I love her story about how she got into tarot. I'm so jealous of, I don't know, reading tarot intense. Not intense, but intense, like when you're camping. She's so smart, and she's so fun, and she's got such a... she has a stack of books that I would have... I thought about pulling out a couple of her other ones, the Through the Forest of Souls, the Tarot Wisdom book. I could go for days talking about her books. All the stuff I'm happy to admit I know, I feel like came from this book. Again, not a whole lot to look at internally, but it's smart, it's good, it's awesome, and I adore it. And if I had to pick one book, I think it would be this one. So, this is my stack of top tarot books. I hope it was interesting. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can find some of them that are out of print. Let me know what your favorites are. Have a great day.